For 73 years of Formula One history, drivers have taken on tracks that defy convention and push the limits. How would you feel racing through the glitz and glamour of a Las Vegas parking lot, or conquering the daunting expanse of a 22.8-kilometer-long circuit? Can you imagine the adrenaline rush of witnessing a driver refuel at a local gas station mid-race? The world of Formula One has embraced the strange and the peculiar. Airfields, banked ovals, and public roads have become the canvas for a tale of evolution and pursuit of excellence. But how do these tracks shape the narrative of racing history? Today we embark on a thrilling journey as we dive into the enigmatic side of Formula One, exploring the tracks that have left a mark on the history of racing. Las Vegas, 1981 to 1982. This temporary track was constructed in the parking lot of the Caesars Palace Hotel and Casino, resulting in a flat circuit devoid of elevation changes. It gained notoriety for its tight and twisty layout, which many perceived as dull and uninspiring. Compounded by the desert location, the temperatures soared to extreme heights, presenting an additional challenge for drivers and teams. Most notably, the track followed a clockwise direction, a departure from the counterclockwise norm of most F1 circuits. This clockwise orientation subjected drivers to unfamiliar forces, posing physical challenges throughout the race. The track failed to resonate with drivers, who lamented the scorching heat, the demanding circuit layout, and the unconventional setting. Fans too criticized the decision to host a race in a parking lot, which lacked the glamour and allure of traditional tracks. The Las Vegas Grand Prix was perceived more as a commercial venture than a sporting event, and due to low attendance and negative reviews, the race was discontinued after the 1982 event. However, it's back this year with a big bang. Will it meet our expectations? Pescara, 1957. Pescara is the longest circuit ever to host a Formula One World Championship Grand Prix. The full circuit was a whopping 25.8 kilometers, 16.03 miles, almost 3 times the length of Spa-Francorchamps, which is considered one of the longest modern circuits. But this is not the most interesting thing about it. Namely, in 1957, Jack Brabham was driving for the Cooper Car Company, and the car he was piloting was powered by a 2-liter Coventry Climax 4-cylinder engine. This was relatively small compared to the engines used by some other competitors. In the race, Brabham's Cooper ran out of fuel, but in a display of grit and determination that would come to define his career, Brabham didn't give up. He climbed out of his car and pushed it roughly half a kilometer to the trackside gas station where it could be refueled. Nürburgring Nordschleife, 1951 to 1976. The Nordschleife, dubbed the Green Hell, was a gargantuan circuit in Germany with a length of over 22.8 kilometers. It had over 160 corners, a mix of high and low-speed curves, challenging elevation changes, and various surfaces due to the different tarmac ages across the track, which made it exceptionally hard for drivers to memorize and perfect. The circuit was nestled in the Eifel Mountains, resulting in unpredictable and poor weather conditions. Fog and rain combined with the dense surrounding forests made for extremely hazardous driving conditions. The track also had hardly any safety barriers and runoff areas, making any mistake potentially catastrophic. However, only after several serious accidents, the most notable being the near-fatal crash of Niki Lauda in 1976, did Formula One stop racing at the Nordschleife due to safety concerns. Lauda's crash left him severely burned and near death. F1 didn't return to the Nürburgring until 1984, when the much shorter and safer GP Streck circuit was used. Indianapolis, 1950 to 1960. The Indianapolis 500, held under the American Automobile Association and later the United States Auto Club rules, stood apart from the rest of the F1 races governed by the FIA. The regulations, the cars and technology used in this race were distinct from those employed throughout the F1 season. But what made this race truly peculiar? The venue. Unlike other F1 tracks, consisting mostly of road courses and street circuits, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway stood as a high-speed oval, a rarity in Formula One, which typically avoided oval circuits. Despite its status as one of the world's oldest racing tracks, its format deviated from the norm. The disparities between the FIA and the USAC ultimately proved impossible, leading to the removal of the Indianapolis 500 from the F1 calendar in 1961. F1 returned to Indianapolis in 2000, this time utilizing a purpose-built road course that incorporated only parts of the iconic oval. Aarhus, 1959. The AVUS, which stands for the German Automobile Traffic and Training, was essentially an elongated straight road featuring hairpin turns at both ends. The circuit used for the 1959 Grand Prix measured approximately 8.3 kilometers, 5.2 miles in length, comprising two straights of around 4 kilometers, 2.5 miles each, interconnected by sharply banked hairpin turns. This simplistic layout allowed for astonishingly high speeds, but it also rendered the track quite perilous. Particularly infamous was the steeply banked north turn, which lacked a top barrier, posing the risk for cars flipping over and landing outside the circuit. What else was peculiar? The format. Concerns about tire wear at high speeds led to the event being divided into two heats, with the final results based on the combined performance in both heats, an exceedingly rare format in Formula One. Tragically, the apprehensions regarding the circuit's safety materialized when French driver Jean Berra lost control of his car during a support race, resulting in his fatal accident at the steeply banked north curve. Monza Combination Circuit, 1955 to 1961. I find the Monza version that was utilized for the Italian Grand Prix between 1955 and 1961 fascinating. Aptly described as almost oval, this iteration of the iconic venue integrated the formidable Monza banking, resulting in a distinctive circuit layout where the main straight was divided into two lanes by a line of cones. Here's how it functioned. Drivers would commence on the main straight, then proceed along the traditional pre-chicane course of Monza. This entailed navigating through Curva Grande, the Lesmos, the Ascari, and finally the Parabolica. However, a change awaited them thereafter, as they would ascend the right side of the main straight, leading into the sharply banked north curve. Subsequently, they would adhere to the oval track, circumnavigating and passing through the south curve before returning to the main straight to complete their lap. Undeniably fast, this circuit also carried a considerable level of risk. The motivation behind employing this track layout in 1960 and 1961 was primarily to provide Ferrari with a competitive advantage. However, it was ultimately deemed too perilous. Dallas, 1984. The Grand Prix in Dallas in 1984 was held in the middle of the Texas summer on July 8, 1984. Temperatures reached over 38 degrees Celsius, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, causing all drivers to struggle and several to retire due to heat exhaustion. The intense weather combined with the use of a temporary street circuit due to the Can-Am race the day before led to the asphalt surface breaking apart under the strain of F1 cars, which became a significant issue during the race, with the track surface becoming progressively worse. The overall disorganization and terrible conditions led to the Dallas Grand Prix being a one-off event. Despite a contract for more races, Formula One never returned due to the myriad of problems encountered during this event. Valencia Circuit, 2008 to 2012. The Valencia street circuit was undoubtedly an anomaly in modern times. Teams operated out of garages constructed in a fish market, surrounded by a setting that combined elements of traditional street circuits and permanent tracks. There was even a swing bridge that had been sealed shut with asphalt, all against a backdrop of America's Cup team bases. F1 races were held here 5 times between 2008 and 2012, and it was here that Michael Schumacher, during his 3-year comeback with Mercedes, notably secured his only podium finish. Despite these moments, the circuit was quickly abandoned. However, it's worth noting that in the final race held there, Fernando Alonso, in what was considered a rather average Ferrari, managed an exhilarating victory, starting 11th on the grid. Thus, this eccentric venue will always be remembered for that remarkable racing achievement. Zeltweg Airstrip Race, 1964. This race took place on an airfield, which was converted into a makeshift racetrack for the event, with a simple track layout of a flat rectangle using the runway and taxiways of the airfield, measuring 3 kilometers, 1.9 miles long. It lacked the complexity and elevation changes of a traditional F1 circuit. Since the track was made up of sections of a runway, it was incredibly bumpy, resulting in a rough ride for the drivers and putting considerable strain on the cars, leading to a high rate of mechanical failures. The track had rudimentary safety features in place. The runoff areas were not up to the standards of a typical F1 circuit, and the barriers were mainly composed of hay bales. Additionally, the spectator areas were perilously close to the track, raising safety concerns. The race was also marked by a high attrition rate, with only 6 of the 20 starters finishing the race. Needless to say, it was a one-off race, and it did not take place ever again. Monaco Street Circuit, 1950 to present day. Last but not least, we often overlook the oddities of things we're used to seeing. Take the Monaco Grand Prix, for instance. It's been a staple of the Formula One calendar almost without interruption since the commencement of the World Championship in 1950. But its continued presence doesn't make it any less peculiar as a racing circuit or an event. Imagine holding a Grand Prix race on this short, narrow track of the Azure coast. The concept seems inconsistent and somewhat ridiculous. If a promoter tried to propose such a race as a new addition to the calendar today, they'd probably be met with ridicule. When Nelson Piquet compared Monaco to cycling around his apartment, it wasn't much of an exaggeration. There's something oddly charming about this unlikely race, held on a slender piece of tarmac in the midst of the glitz and glamour of this affluent tax haven. It serves as a unique reminder of an era long gone. The rich history of Formula One is marked by a thrilling blend of the unusual and the extreme. From races on airfields and parking lots to those on banked ovals and public roads, the sport's journey reveals a fascinating evolution. These unique circuits were stepping stones that tested the limits of the cars, drivers, and organizers alike. So, what are your thoughts on these races? Can we imagine these tracks for a new era? Which one would you prefer F1 to return to? Share your insights, opinions, and dreams, for it is through our collective imagination that we shape the future of Formula One. See you next time.